happy guys? It's the Curious Owl here, and welcome to Top 5 Wednesday. So if you're not familiar with what Top 5 Wednesday is, it is a Goodreads group that basically has each week a certain prompt or theme to follow on, and you list 5 books that you think fit that prompt or theme. So this week it is basically talking about the second or essentially middle books of a series. A lot of people tend to think that the books that are towards the middle of a series are actually better than the first or last books in a series. Many people of the Harry Potter fandom will tell you that some of the books that are towards the middle, like usually 3 to 5, are the best books in the entire series. I don't really remember because it's been a long time since I have read those books and I need to reread them for sure. But despite that, here are my top 5 books that seem to be, or top 5 series that seem to be better in the middle. Coming in at number 5 is the second book in the Thirst series by Christopher Pike. Now, the reason I really enjoyed this one is because there's a whole different dynamic for the main character, Sita. If you are not familiar with this series, it is a series that is essentially following a 5,000-year-old vampire. And in this installment of the series, she is actually human, and she basically has to relearn what it means to be human, which is a really interesting experience. It's a very different dynamic than I think a lot of people are familiar with, and it was really interesting to see her progression from being this very old, very, one of the first vampires in the entire world to all of a sudden having to become human again and figuring out exactly the ins and the outs of being human and what it means to be human. It was just a really interesting take on, the whole idea of the human experience from someone who really hasn't been human their entire life. Coming in at number 4 is the second book in the Beautiful Creatures series, Beautiful Darkness by Kami Garcia and Margaret Stohl. I personally adore the Beautiful Creatures series. It is one of my favorite book series of all time, my most favorite kind of YA fantasy magical romance that basically goes on. The reason I really love Beautiful Darkness is because there's a lot of progression that comes from the main characters, Ethan and Lena. If you're not familiar with this series, it follows a young boy, 15-year-old boy named Ethan, who basically falls in love with a girl named Lena, who is essentially what is called a caster person. And a caster is someone who is able to use magic and is able to control magic. He falls in love with her and ends up finding out a lot about this caster realm and finds out a lot about how his family is connected to that world. In this installment though, unfortunately, they have suffered a great loss and Lena starts to really pull away, and the biggest reason I love it is because there's a lot of progression for Ethan and Lena's relationship and the way that it builds and the way that it kind of is strained because of Lena's emotions and the things that are kind of going wrong with her after losing somebody very close to her. I just really love the middle of this series more so because there's just a lot of progression for each character in the series, not just the main characters, but a lot of the more kind of secondary characters. There's a lot of build up with them and a lot of kind of story building that goes on with them that helps to understand how exactly Ethan is tied to this entire caster world in the first place, dealing with his mother and all things of that nature. It's just a really interesting kind of way to build a story over the course of several books. Number 3 is the third book in the Morganville Vampire series, The Dead Girl's House by Rachel Caine. This book is actually a volume. It is the first and second books put together. I actually have like 4 of these of like the first 8 books I think in this entire series. This was a series I got into actually with my grandmother. I don't remember exactly how we found it, but I remember like we actually read together the entire Morganville Vampire series, and it was one of the only series that I've actually ever read with her, and it was the most amazing thing in the world. Like, I absolutely love this series. This is probably my favorite series of all time. Like, my top one is the Morganville Vampire series because Rachel Caine was able to create an amazing story, and all of the supplementing novels that come off of it all had different kinds of problems going on, and it all seemed to flow so well with very little question to how things happen. I don't know, it's one of my favorite series, I just think, because the overall structure of the entire plot line throughout the entire series was consistent. It made sense. It's so different from other YA romance vampire stories that I've seen in the past. I just really like how this one, it doesn't always focus so much on romance. It doesn't always focus so much on action either. It really is a well balance of romance and action and deceit and mystery and plotting and all of these different things that most YA romance with vampires novels don't do. They either focus too much on the romance or too much on the action. There's no balance, and that's why I really enjoy this series especially, and the middle books for sure, because there's a lot of buildup between the characters and the relationships and all these different things that happen in this tiny little town of Morganville that kind of just explode. And I just love how Rachel Caine was able to keep me for so long to where I actually have every single book that is in this series. I think this is the only series, one of the few series at least, that I have every single book of. And that's saying something, because I have a hard time with getting every single book in a series. Now, as you guys may be able to tell, I've been picking more so the second books in each series, and that's just because when it came to this prompt, I thought that it would focus more on like the second book, but it really can just be any book that is in the middle of a series. But that's basically what I kind of went with this series, so please feel free to, you know, use it as you will. I just picked the second ones because I felt that the second books in these series I talk about all actually were really good to me, and I really enjoyed them thoroughly. But feel free to not just pick the second one. If there's a third or fourth book in the series that out of 5 that you really enjoy, feel free to pick it for this prompt. I'm just letting you know that right now. Coming in at number 2 for my list is the book Kiss the Girls by James Patterson. This is the second book in the Alex Cross series. This actually, there is a very good reason as to why I picked this one, and the reason is because, not just because of the actual story and things of that nature, it's a really good book. It's a really good sequel to a series that ends up becoming one of the most amazing mystery series of all time, in my opinion. James Patterson's been working on the Alex Cross series for now probably close to 20-25 years, and this is only the second book. This was really good just because there was a lot of creepiness in it. This was really what got me started into the entire Alex Cross series, to be honest. Along Came a Spider, the first one, was really good, but I really enjoyed Kiss the Girls so much more, and my love for the series continues to grow more and more with each book that I read in the series. And this one, though, has a special place in my heart because this novel has been a huge inspiration for the novel that I have been working on for the last 2.5 years. This book alone had gave me so much inspiration for my main villain in my mystery novel I have been working on. So I owe this book a lot of credit because there's a lot of things that I picked in and out from this novel that I incorporated with my main villain, some of the kind of mannerisms that he has and some of the little quirks mentally that he has that seem to really kind of just make him more of an actual James Patterson villain. So I just owe a lot to this novel because it has really given me so much life into my own story that I want to make sure that I give credit where credit is due, basically. And finally, coming in at number 1 is actually really just more of the actual series in general, but it is Kissed by an Angel by Elizabeth Chandler. I love this series so much. Like, I don't even care that it's not exactly like the second book in the series. It's this volume I have right here is 3 out of the 5 stories that are involved with the Kissed by an Angel series. I really enjoy just all of them. I couldn't pick which one out of all of them I really wanted to focus on, but because I can't even really exactly remember all of them because it's been so long, but I just remember that this was the first series that I really got into that, you know, each part of the series just did better and better with the overall storyline. It all fits so well, and it's one of those romantic kind of stories that, you know, I feel just makes my heart flutter so much. And all of my friends that have read this have said the exact same thing. That is probably one of the best romantic stories that they have ever read, and it is just an amazing story. And as you guys can probably tell from the binding, it is well loved. This has been read over and over by myself, my younger sister, my sister's friends, my friends. This book has been used so much over the last several years, and I love the fact that it has, because it is such a good story. It is such a heartwarming and kind of a, you know, a appreciation of love story, really. It is about a young girl who ends up losing her boyfriend in a car accident, and unfortunately she is going through a big depression, but basically he's her guardian angel, and so he actually looks out for her and all the things that seem to go wrong with her life. She actually finds out exactly what happened to him and how he died and who was behind it and all this kind of stuff, and it's all with the help of him kind of being in the background, being her actual guardian angel. And it is such a beautiful story, and it is the first real romantic YA novel I ever really got into, and it just made me wish so much for a guy that was going to be like Tristan, the guy that is the boyfriend in the story. Oh, it just made my heart swell. I still swoon over it because it is such a good romantic story. I really recommend any of you guys that want to get into kind of more romantic-y kind of stories to really pick up this book, because it is so freaking adorable and sweet and just makes you want to cry happy tears and lovey tears and all the tears in the world. It's just such a good book, and I cannot rave enough about it. So there you guys go. There is my top 5 list for series that seem to be better towards the middle of the series. If you guys had any ideas for what I should have picked, or have any series in mind that you think did really well in the middle of it, please let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your guys' ideas. Also, let me know if you've read any of these books or any of these series in the past, because I'd love to have conversations with you guys about them. These are some of my favorite series of all time that I've listed here. Actually, pretty much every single series I listed in this video, I really enjoyed the entire series. So let me know down in the comments if you guys have read them so I can talk with you about them, because I've got some really good things to say about all 5 of these series. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. If you guys did enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up, and if you're not already and you'd like to be, hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock, and I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys!